Hey everyone, and thanks for checking out another video. We're on the beautiful shores of Lake Superior in Silver Bay, Minnesota. You're looking at the Northshore Mining facility. Today, we're going to check out the operations here and watch as the H. Lee White is loaded with iron ore pellets. There will be timestamps in the description if you want to skip straight to the ship loading. This is a pretty fascinating processing and loading plant. Currently owned by Cleveland Cliffs, this was created in 1939 as the Reserve Mining Company through a joint venture of 4 steel companies, but by 1950, Armco Steel and Republic Steel would each own half the company. The town of Silver Bay was built around the facility. It would open in 1956 and was the first taconite producing facility in North America. As we fly by, you can see it has a large storage yard for the freshly made taconite pellets. I couldn't find any old pictures of what this looked like when built, but you can see it has an ore bridge capable of running the length of the storage yard on rails. Those cylinders are where the ore is stored before being loaded onto a ship. This site features a unique loading system compared to the other facilities I've visited. We'll see it in action in just a little bit. These buildings are where the raw iron ore is processed and then turned into taconite pellets. We'll learn more about the process later in the video. On the hillside behind it is where the rail cars deliver the freshly mined rock. Here's a look at the U.S. Steel Mintac mine in Mountain Iron, Minnesota. This is just to give you an idea of what the mining process looks like to get the raw iron ore out of the earth. This is similar to what arrives at the plant for processing. Northshore Mining gets its ore from the Peter Mitchell mine in Babbitt, Minnesota. It's on the northeastern end of the Mesabi Iron Range. Large drills are used to create holes for explosives and then blast the rock, freeing the ore. The dump trucks used can carry more than 240 tons of rock and can be as big as a house. The ore from the Babbitt mine is around 25% iron. Here's a look at a train fresh from the mine with raw ore. The trip by train is 47 miles. This is where the rail cars are unloaded. Empties leave to the left while the loads are pushed in from the right. Given the track layout, crews have to cut off strings of cars to make them fit in the available track. The engineer will pull the cars forward to the switch and then push them back. I know it's only around 25 cars or so, but that's a decent little grade he's going to be working against. I'm impressed that Locomotive has the traction to push those cars uphill. Here we see the last car clear the switch. Moments later, that switch reverses. I'm guessing this is all radio controlled. The engineer only stops long enough for that switch movement before shoving the cars uphill. There in the shadow, you can see another worker wearing an orange vest. I'm not sure where he popped out of though. He wasn't there in the beginning of this shot. He's waiting to make sure that the new cars couple with the ones already in place. As I watch this on a larger monitor, this may be a one-man crew. It looks like he's wearing a Locomotive controller pack. Let me know if you have any information on the operations and if that's true. The new cars are connected and they're ready to continue unloading the raw ore. The geography works out for the facility. Things flow downhill for the most part. The ore will be ground into smaller and smaller pieces before being turned into taconite pellets. The unloading facility is about 225 feet or 78 meters in length. Behind the building, we can see the Locomotive is ready to pull another cut of loaded cars forward when needed. Unfortunately, we only get a glimpse inside the car dump building and don't get to see it in action. The rotary dumper inside there can handle 2 cars at a time and is capable of unloading as many as 70 cars in an hour. This image is actually from the North Shore Scenic Overlook. It's part of a display showing how the process starts from start to finish. It's got a lot of great information, tells you what you're looking at, and has some history as well. It's definitely worth a stop if you're in the area or even passing through. The overlook is covered as well, so even if it's raining, you can still swing by and enjoy yourself. It's just a short walk from some gravel parking spots. Alright, well, back to the cars and the raw ore. I noticed yellow paint on one end of many of the cars, indicating they have rotary dump couplers. That means they don't need to be separated before being rolled and emptied, and that's why they're capable of as many as 35 rotations an hour. As we watch the cars being pushed through, notice how long that string of empties is. I know I said this before, but that really is a lot of weight to be pushed uphill. That building in the distance is where waste products are loaded onto the tailings train and then hauled away to a holding pond. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch that in action, but I will include a link to another video showing it in action if you want to check that out. I didn't realize until watching the footage on a much larger monitor how the cars were actually moved into position to be unloaded. It's done through these two giant wheels and the cables coming off them. The cable system is attached to a Barney arm that grabs an ore car and then moves it into position to be dumped. If that fails or isn't working for some reason, they can actually be moved into position just using the locomotive. On to the next step in the process. This long building is where the ore is crushed again and concentrated. This side is where the ore is reduced in size from 4 inches to less than an inch. The other end of the building is what's known as the concentrator. It takes that 3/4 inch stone and pulverizes it to a fine powder similar to face makeup. Now that's then mixed with water to create a slurry that has an iron content of around 65% using flotation as well as magnetic separators. Now lastly, the building with the steam or exhaust coming out of it in the distance is known as the pelletizer. That's where, you guessed it, the fine ore powder is turned into taconite pellets. Now to turn this slurry into those hard pellets, the water must be removed. Now this is done by mixing a clay type binder into the mix and then rolling the product into balls using a balling drum. Now these balls are just smaller than ½ an inch in diameter. They're then fired in furnaces at more than 2300 degrees Fahrenheit or about 1300 degrees Celsius. They must be hardened or else they wouldn't be able to be shipped anywhere. Well, we finally made it to the ship loading portion of the video. The pellets can be sent to the storage yard to be stockpiled, or they're fed directly to the cylindrical bins. Now those bins are used to directly feed the ships, but during the 2-month-long winter layup when the Great Lakes shipping comes to a halt, the pellets are stored. I have created a video without any narration showing all the raw footage I recorded of the ship loading. The link to that will be in the description if you want to check it out. Alright, well now let's see how the ship loader works. You can see the ore pellets flowing off it into the belly of the boat right now. This is one of two with the ore dock. You have boat loader 1, which is the east rig, and then boat loader number 2, which is the west rig. Now one is operating right now. I'm not sure if they can both operate at the same time though to help load a footer when they come in. Now the operator gets a load slip from the ship telling him the load order, but they also communicate through a radio through the loading process. We'll start at the top and work our way down. A conveyor belt feeds each of the bins from the top, and they can feed them at about 2,000 tons an hour. They don't need to wait for the fresh pellets to cool down though, they can actually fill while it's still hot and fresh out of the oven. Each bin can hold 5,000 tons of ore pellets, so the dock is capable of holding 50,000 tons. The H. Lee White has a midsummer deadweight tonnage of a little more than 35,000 tons, so it could take nearly 7 of these bins depending on how much fuel, ballast water, and everything else it's carrying. Bins 1 through 4 are being used to store the direct reduction grade ore pellets, while 5 through 10 hold the standard taconite grade. That can change though, depending on what's needed for each boat. Notice how the ore stops flowing. Now I'll get to watch as the boat loader repositions itself to start loading through a different hatch. You can see the operator keeps an eye on everything from that control booth toward the top. I'm not sure how old this equipment is, but it's surprisingly maneuverable. They really did come up with some genius designs for this stuff. And there comes the taconite. A quick note, I'm not sure, but I believe those winches are part of the system used to maneuver the ship up and down the dock as it's loaded. This is pretty cool. The boat loader has a scale on its conveyor belt that will automatically shut off the feeder belt from the bottom of the bin. That way it makes sure to only load the correct amount and the loader isn't moving around with ore pellets on the conveyor belt. Here's a little more about the facility. It would operate for more than 30 years before an economic downturn forced it to close in the mid-80s. It sat idle for about 3 years before being purchased by Cypress Minerals in 1989. 5 years later, and Cleveland Cliffs purchased the facility. Every bin has 2 feeder belts, so 20 altogether, and each of those numbers we can see corresponds to an individual belt. Now they're spaced 24 feet apart to match the hatch spacing on most ships. Each boat loader is capable of running up to 4,000 long tons an hour, so they can empty a bin in about 2.5 hours. One thing I've noticed is there is always someone from the ship's crew keeping an eye on the loading process. The boat loader is getting ready to reposition itself again, but this time we'll also get to see the ship move as well. They must be getting close to finishing because the crew's already putting the hatch covers back on. Cliff says Northshore Mining is the only US-based iron ore processing facility that can produce low silica, direct reduction grade ore pellets. It can also produce standard grade taconite, so this facility is capable of serving Cliff's steel mills as well as its direct reduction plant in Toledo. Well, that about does it for the video. I really do hope you enjoyed it. This has been so much fun for me to see how all this works. There's still plenty of loading footage for you to check out, and a little action from that locomotive as it maneuvered around the facility. I've got several more videos from Lake Superior, including several from the Duluth Superior area, as well as seeing 2 harbors in action. I hope you'll check those out when they're finished. Until our next trip, I hope you have a great day. Toward the end of my visit, the winds really whipped up and I couldn't fly my drone anymore. So I went to the Silver Bay Marina to try and grab a shot of the ship leaving. They must have left pretty soon after I took down my drone. I got to the marina and the crew had already left the dock and were well on their way to the Cliffs direct production plant in Toledo, Ohio. The H. Lee White arrived around 3:50 in the morning, October 5th, and didn't stick around too long. They departed around 14 and a half hours later, around 6:30 that evening. That seems pretty good to me, with only a single shiploader filling the ship. Now we'll jump back to the locomotive maneuvering the cars around. It just coupled those cars to the left to the ones already at the unloader and will make its way back to gather more cars. It's funny sometimes, the track layout doesn't make sense until you actually see it in action. He's pulled forward to that switch and then it reverses. Now we'll head back to the remaining cars. That's interesting. They must wet down the rock to try and minimize the dust as these cars are unloaded, but I wonder why these ones are dry as a bone. Here we see a set of empties being pulled away from the dumper. You can see the loads behind them, and in front of them is the tailings train. Locomotive 654 gets topped off, and we get a closer look at the tailings cars. The company has about 3 dozen of these side-dumped cars. I'll include a link to a video YouTuber Trackside Tyson created showing side-dump cars in action. It's a pretty ingenious design if you ask me. I do wonder though, if they're pneumatic or if they have a gas or maybe electric motor of some sort on board, because that's gotta be a tough lift for that dumper. Looks like this is a push-pull setup to make it easier on the crews and save some time. Unfortunately, as I was leaving, it looked like the crew was getting set up to load the tailings. You can see the conveyor belts carry the waste from the main building up here. Now the tailings are what's left over after they separate the iron ore into the pellets. Here's another view of the loader. It looks like they could load 2 trains at a time if need be. This is a shot I recorded while at the Overlook with my ground camera and a super long zoomed in lens. Now that sign says no admittance, remote control locomotives in use. And here's a wider view of that same spot. I hope to one day make it back up here and catch the tailings train being loaded and following it to unload. Our final shot shows the empties departing for the trip back to the mine to pick up the raw ore and start this process all over again. Notice the loads on the right. I wonder how many handbrakes must be used to keep these cars from rolling forward. Well, we have one more stop to make. I saw Betty's Pies just outside downtown Two Harbors on my way up and decided to stop by on my way back to Duluth. I'd never heard of this place, but the sign said world famous, and I love a good pie. They even ship pies. When I pulled into the parking lot, it was packed and there was about a 30-minute wait just for me. I should have known better, but rarely does the inside match the signs and the claims outside. The food wasn't anything special, and their raspberry rhubarb crunch pie was average in my opinion. I'd love to hear from you if you've been here. What was your experience? Should I go back and try a different pie? Let me know in the comments. Well, that really does it for this video. I hope you liked it, and thanks for watching.